I have PTSD at the idea of Ted Cruz being the one person in the race that we have to like nominally root for because he is less awful in like the most deeply awful ways that Tucker and JD Vance are.
Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. We got a lot of show today because the Epstein stuff is real and it is spectacular. But before we go to that, mere minutes before we sat down to tape on Wednesday afternoon, there were developments in the James Comey criminal case. Are you guys ready?
I'm thrilled, and I'm ready to hear about them from the best newsletter writer in America, who's been on fire this week.
So kind of you.
Unbelievable. Every word has been perfect.
So they had a hearing in the Comey case, and it turns out that the new AUSA, Lindsay Halligan, who is just a nice real estate lawyer who did some reality TV as a young pup.
She won some big cases and about some like parking lot incidences, I think. There was some, yeah.
You know, I don't want to, like, parking lot law is like the law of the sea. One of those things where there's just a lot of complexity. And it turns out that she went to get a grand jury to indict James Comey on 3 counts. And the grand jury refused the first count. And instead of taking the amended indictment back to the grand jury and representing it to them and getting them to sign off on it, she seems to have simply taken out the first one that failed and had the 4-person of the jury sign it and then taken it to the judge. This is a big no-no.
Is that bad?
It's not good. This is like the George Costanza. Is that wrong? Was that frowned upon? And so the judge has said that she is very concerned. And this, I would just say that it seems like it is possible that somebody is going to wind up either in jail or disbarred from this case. And I don't think it's going to be James Comey.
It's not going to be James Comey. I've seen him out and about. He doesn't look like a guy who's going to jail.
Out and about? Where did you see him?
Nowhere.
He's really tall.
He is so tall.
If you're just kind of driving around the DMV, you might just kind of see him towering over the trees.
You know, I'll just tell you guys something about me, which is I go to things around DC and I run into people, but I am I'm a big hugger and I sort of lunge at people in public spaces, you know.
You just hugged me, as a matter of fact, like 20 minutes ago from behind.
That's right. People don't always see me coming. I'm like a little Tasmanian devil that just gets, and so like I hit James Comey with some force, and I come up to like under his armpit. But he's a free man out in the world.
What, yeah, your sense from that hug was not just quaking in his boots about what Pam Bondi and Lindsay Halligan have in store?
No, he feels like a guy who is going to remain free.
Did you get a chance to chat with him at all about his daughter who got summarily dismissed from the administration for the crime of having the last name Comey, despite the fact that she was one of the most effective prosecutors of child sex traffickers in the country? And you would think that a government that was very focused on going after child sex traffickers would have wanted to have that person around. Did that come up at all?
You know, I got to say, if you've ever met anybody who is a prosecutor or who, was the former FBI director, they're close hold. These are not people out there running around, throwing things out there. But I can speak only for myself. That's not true no
more, is it?
Yeah.
But I can speak for myself where
Cash is throwing things out there.
That's true.
Cash, Lindsay, Blanche, Judge Box of Wine.
I mean, for people who took these jobs seriously, who are credible actors.
4 times.
Right. But I did get a chance to meet Maureen Comey and was able to. It doesn't matter what she said. What matters is that I got to express to her just how terrific I thought she was, how brave I thought she was, how she comported herself when that happened to her. And, I just I wish only good things for these. And I guess part of what it is you can imagine how stressful it would be, right? On just like a family to have this kind of intense attack. And I just want to I want to ask everybody to sort of put yourself in the mindset of the most powerful person in the world, is able to just come after you for no reason other than, they want to, like, just imagine what that's like. And Trump is doing that to a lot of people. Marjorie Taylor Greene could add herself to that list right now. But we should have the backs of the people that Trump is going after, for no, and I am glad, we should all be glad that, they had to go so far down the chain to find somebody to bring these absurd cases that they ended up with somebody, just wildly incompetent, that will ensure that they end up looking like absolute assholes at the end of this.
I don't have a ton of thoughts on the case itself, but I do. There's one thing that was boiling my blood this morning. Like, the incompetence does in some ways like mask the perniciousness and allow these guys to get away, to exist in the world in a way that they shouldn't be able to. And by they, I mean the Lindsey Halligans and I want to go back to the old days where Sarah Huckabee Sanders couldn't get a seat at the Red Hen. God bless the proprietor of the Red Hen. It's like, you know what? Sorry. And by the way, I'm consistent on that. If you don't want to bake me a wedding cake, that's fine with me. That's fine. It's a free country. But I was watching did you see the pictures from the state dinner with the bone saw sand dictator last night?
Yeah.
And there's just one thing that struck me. So obviously the Trump butt boys are there, David Balsacks and Elon, like all these, rich guys that are have fully thrown in with Trump. But the thing that really jumped out at me is there's a selfie taken by Mark Benioff, who's the Salesforce guy, did a rant about him recently, who had been a liberal, like up until recently. I mean, like didn't even support Trump in the campaign. He was like the last man to fall. It's like after the insurrection, after we sent people to a foreign gulag, then Mark Benioff's like, this is the time to jump on board. But he was there and he takes a selfie with Pam Bondi. And we're there, he's just smiling. And he's posting it. He's the CEO of Salesforce. And I'm like, you should, I feel like their incompetence is preventing people to feel the shame that they should feel about this. It's like you are doing a selfie with this woman who is explicitly just totally breaking down the rule of law and the norms that have governed this country, a free, liberal, democratic country for, at least in modern times. And she's going after political foes of the president with sham indictments that is totally embarrassing and ham-handed, but also authoritarian. And and my view is kind of like, so if she wants to do a selfie line at a Trump rally, okay. But I think that business people in the rest of society, I feel like should be treating her as a pariah at this point. Like what she is doing is just wholly disgusting and outside of the bounds of how business has been done in this country, at minimum since Watergate.
Yeah, this is where JVL would tell you do not get a table at Spago.
Exactly.
You should never get a table at Spago.
And you shouldn't get a selfie with the CEO of Salesforce. The CEO of Salesforce shouldn't be like, why? What does this guy who has his own island in Hawaii like really?
Does he need to take selfies with anybody?
Yeah, and does he need to be at Bonesaw McGee's, birthday dinner at the White House? Like, you get invited to a lot of fine dinners, No. I'm sure Peter Thiel's invited you to some things where they have like the vampiric blood of Twinks, available blood. And little vials. You can take shots. Like you've gone to, lots of fancy
caviar
parties.
Bumps. Yeah. One other thing from the case, at the case today, the judge asked the AUSA there, whether or not previous prosecutors had prepared a declination memo. This is a memo in which they explain why they are not pressing charges because there is no case. And the AUSA for the government said, actually, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, he has instructed us not to disclose whether or not this memo exists. Most transparent administration in history. All right. let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein. We had it. It happened. It finally all came together. We got the
Speaking of
discharge
transparency.
You like that? That's a professional grade transition. And it happened, and I'm already feeling not good about it.
Well, before we get to your not good, can I do one good? Can I
Sure.
say one thing I feel like I have to say on this podcast, which is, I got to hand it to Sarah on this one. I mean, usually I'm right when me and Sarah disagree. But in this case, I will say Sarah was more bullish on this as a political matter. I think that what you're, JV, probably going to get to is like there's a little bit, I don't know, we already start popping champagne bottles yet on accountability for the people that raped the girls. Okay, like we'll see what happens. But as a political matter, Sarah was very bullish on the fact that this could become a major problem for Donald Trump that really hampered him. And I was just a little more skeptical of that. I was open to it, but a couple of times I was like, I'm just not quite as. Sarah was riled. She was like, I smell blood. I smell blood here. And I was like, I'm not smelling blood. And it seems like, I mean, I get it. It's doing very real political damage to him. TBD on all the other stuff, which we can get into. But I wanted to say that clearly because it's important from a podcast accountability standpoint. So that when I'm right, I get to brag in the future.
Of course.
With impunity, yeah. I was about to shut down, by the way.
It's fine. Do you want to relitigate that one?
No, but I was right, though. And Democrats now plus 14 in the generic ballot.
Well, but that is also has to do, well, first of all, you don't know when that was in the field. It might have been before they caved, but whatever. It's okay. I got Alyssa Slotkin, Senator Slotkin on the focus group pod. We're going to talk about the shutdown and the machinations that went into that decision making. One of the things that I have seen from Trump, though, is a bleat. Some of his bleats are like, he's specifically saying, we need to get the Epstein files done so we can get back to affordability where we're winning big. And I got to tell you, watching him get consultant brain, like people have been saying, sir, like that is a man who is panicked about his polling numbers. When he says that they're doing the best on affordability, well, nobody thinks that. And he knows nobody thinks that. And so now this is what he does, right? He tries to create his own reality. He tries to will it into being bleat by bleat on Truth Social. And I'm not sure he's got the same riz he used to manufacture that into existence when the reality is very much the opposite. It was one thing in the first term when the economy was growing and he was able to just make it seem more exciting than it was, but at least like things were going well. This idea that he thinks he can make people think the economy is on fire, the hottest country in the world, while we are actively, by every metric, the economy is doing poorly, or declining. I don't think he's going to be able to bleed his way out of this one.
It is so funny, Sarah, to hear Trump doing the, like, we need to focus on kitchen table issues. That's like Donald Trump. That you in there? Yeah. That's a good catch. That's noteworthy.
All right, so we're done talking about good things. Here's what I'm concerned about. So Pam Bondi did a press conference this morning about the Epstein files, and she was asked, you're gonna release all the Epstein files now? And her response was that they would continue to comply with the law. She just repeated that phrase over and over again. And then she did caution people that there are ongoing investigations in the Southern District of New York. And if you read the Trump tweet about this from the weekend, where he said they should give it to whoever is, whatever is they're lawfully entitled to, I think was a phrase he used. And then you read the actual text of the bill. So the text of the bill creates a number of carve-outs for things that can be redacted or withheld. And in a non-adversarial relationship with an administration that adhered to the rule of law, you might say, okay, well, these things are written reasonably carefully, and they do require reporting on behalf of the Justice Department for things they want to redact. I feel reasonably confident that we're going to get all or close to all of everything. I don't feel that way. I feel like this is actually just the beginning. And maybe this is me just going into like Fox Mulder mode, where I'm like, oh, we gotta go. There's another conspiracy underneath this conspiracy. We gotta keep digging. But I do feel like this is really just the beginning of the attempt to get at all of the stuff. And there's going to be just layer upon layer of, nope, they're trying to hide this. Nope, they're trying to hide that.
Yeah, I do think that's right. I mean, I think it's very clear when Trump let all the Republicans take the vote, right, which then was almost unanimous, save but one vote to release the files in the House. It was clear that he had not had a change of heart. He had a change of strategy. And so we know that there's a strategy in here somewhere for him to do some kind of self-protection. And the question is going to be, can he get away with that? Now, I will say there is some loss in here. I mean, Thune was asked to amend this bill, and, you know, to make it slightly, and he didn't. And so, you know, obviously, I think it looks like probably their strategy is to announce, just like he did with his taxes, some like, well, there's an ongoing investigation, so we can't release the following things. Because, of course, Congress is only doing this vote because the FBI and DOJ aren't just releasing them. Like, they could just release them without this congressional vote. But now it's happened. What'll be interesting when it goes to his desk, though, like a moment when he signs it or doesn't sign it. But I think the way that they're playing this now is that he signs it and then they act like there's some kind of ongoing investigation that means they can't release these things, but they can release it about their Democratic counterparts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the legally permissible thing is noteworthy. There's also, in the bill, there's the weird thing about unclassified information gets released. Ken Klippenstein was writing about this, and it's like, well, why would anything be classified in Jeffrey Epstein emails? That's an interesting question. You wouldn't think that he didn't have a security clearance. I mean, I'm not trying to dabble into the Jewish conspiracy theories, but I am just saying, like, he didn't have a security clearance. So why would there be any classified information in his documents or emails? That's something to think about. So I'm with you. Here's the thing. Like I said, I'm not bullish on justice for the victims. Hopeful, but not bullish. I'm not bullish that whatever the process is for the release of these things, that whatever the most embarrassing thing about Trump or Melania that is in there, like, actually gets out. Like, but it's a little bit hard to script this sort of stuff, right? Like, it's hard to be like, oh, hey, you know, and these guys are the Keystone Cops. And it's like, oh, we're just going to release these 12,000 emails because they mentioned Larry Summers, but they're just not that good at it. Like, you comb through all this stuff, and we saw this with all the Hillary emails, right? It's like you comb through it, and then somebody's like, well, wait a minute. What was that? Like, they reference something that references somebody else, you know? And so I do think that there will be more embarrassing reveals, even if they try to focus this around Larry Summers. I mean, I don't know how much more embarrassing you can get than what's already out there from Larry Summers. So he was asking Jeffrey Epstein for dating advice, like, within hours of his arrest after the Julie Brown story was already out. So, you know, I mean, who knows what else is in there?
Are we going to sound like conspiracy theorists if we keep saying, well, hold on, is this everything?
No.
Is that going to make us like QAnon types?
No.
Where we go one, we go all, Sarah.
No. Although I will say, so I did a little tape with Will Sommer for the other half of the focus group pod, and we were, we did a couple of Trump focus groups about Epstein, and like, there's like a strain of people who are saying they're really frustrated with Trump for not being more transparent. Like, they are annoyed with him. They are frustrated with him. There's like the other people who were like, I don't know, guys. I think this could go even higher than Trump. Like, maybe it's international. Like, maybe Trump can't say something for the following reasons. And so like, there's I can't believe how high this goes. I do think it's interesting. I just have a few observations about the Epstein stuff. One is, it's interesting how many times other people mention Trump, but there haven't been any emails from Trump. And I suspect that's because Trump doesn't send emails, right? Like, he's the mafia boss who never does this.
The Trump timeline is that, like, the Trump Epstein friendship was kind of in the very proto email era, right? I mean, like they were friends in the late 90s, early 2000s. The one thing of the Trump story that is true, we don't exactly know why they had a falling out, and who knows about what his explanation is, but they don't seem to have been hanging out in 2017, 16, 15, like when this tranche of emails are from, right? Like their friendship was earlier.
Presumably, there could be more Trump stuff. The second thing I find interesting, like direct Trump stuff, not just people talking about Trump. The second thing that's interesting is the trove of emails that we got were not from what the DOJ and FBI have. They were from the Epstein estate. And I do wonder what else is in the Epstein estate. Like, that's where we got the birthday card. That's where we got these troves of emails. So part of what I think has got them probably panicking a little bit is they don't know what's just sitting around in boxes somewhere that could implicate him, that are from long time ago. And that stuff could continue to come out, and Democrats can continue to get it out.
Videotapes.
Yep.
Like just videotapes of him being around, like, is really embarrassing. Yeah. Why? I'm sorry to, this is a little bit off topic, but like, why is there an Epstein estate? Shouldn't we have confiscated everything from him? I don't understand. What is the Epstein estate?
That's actually an excellent question, because when it comes to the victims, part of what you'd like to see is, if nothing else, give them all his money.
Yeah.
You heard me, Jay. You heard it, JVL. You heard the accent.
I did.
But give them all his money. They should be able to have, take his estate to court.
This is such small potatoes, it's barely even worth mentioning. But ProPublica did have a story this week about Andrew Tate. I don't know if you guys saw this. And
I thought you were going to mention the Prince Andrew story.
No. The Tate brothers, who been charged with sex trafficking by 3 different countries, when they arrived in Florida, the Customs and Border Patrol just took their phones from them, seized their devices as they came across. And Paul Ingracia, who now worked in the administration and had been their lawyer beforehand, came and personally intervened to yell at the CPB people and tell them, no, you give them back their things. They're not Mexicans. How dare you? And
they're just abusers of women, which, as you can see from our president and the administration, is something that's not just something that we smile upon, but like a prerequisite to be in our circles.
Yeah. So, I mean,
for people who don't know, Paul Ingracia is the guy that from the texts that was nominated for the Senate-approved position, and then he was the one person that didn't get the Senate-approved position, even though everyone else has, because he said, like, all men aren't created equal or whatever on text. It's like, I have a Nazi streak, like the kinds of stuff that you'd say, like, only if it was like a Chappelle Show skit where you're being a stereotype of a racist, and that was just Paul Ingracia's texts. So anyway, good to see that he's siding with the Tate brothers.
But it's like the Trump on the plane calling the ABC or the Bloomberg reporter, I think it was a Bloomberg reporter, piggy, right? Quiet piggy.
Yeah, quiet
it's
piggy.
This thing that happens that is so, like, there's just so much going on. I don't know that anybody, I mean, ProPublica, God bless them for doing the FOIA requests and getting this story out. But I haven't seen anybody else really talking about it. And the piggy thing, like, barely gets covered because it's just Trump being Trump, man.
That piggy thing, sorry to psychoanalyze him. That is a guy who feels under pressure. Like, that is a cornered person lashing out. And Trump has, like, part of his instincts, right, are like, when he feels cornered, like, find a woman to demean and insult. But like, he had that real, like, how dare you? He's trying to flex a big muscle. But I do think that the press, at least around Epstein, is starting to sort of find their mojo on this. And they've been pretty bad at sort of banding together, but I did see a lot of defense of her. And I feel like this should be a turning point. I mean, there should have been a whole bunch already, but it's the kind of thing where, like, okay, if he's going to behave like this, like, let's start pushing and help each other out here.
Yeah. Also, like in our fractured media environment, I look. I mean, the big institutional media companies have just been an unbelievable disappointment and failure. Like that's like
Totally.
granted, but like, um, I mean, obviously, there's already a huge gender gap in the country that is based in a large part on just Trump's essence. But there are spaces that cover the Tate stuff pretty closely. I saw some of that and some of the various like blog podcast world that I follow. What Ingrassia was doing, and and obviously the Piggy stuff has been huge on social media, and like the video we did on like all of that stuff, it gets a lot of attention, right? Because there are a lot of people that are mad at him about it. And then I didn't get a chance to do a video of this because I've been traveling, but the Rogan Theo Von convo, which isn't about this sort of stuff, but like those guys are just like the way that the administration used Theo in their deportation snuff film. And like both of them were mad about that and talking about how outrageous it was. All of this stuff. And it's just like his coalition is fragile. You know what I mean? And so I hear you, like there's a frustration that it's like, shouldn't Good Morning America be, leading the hour with the fact that whatever, like Trump called a reporter Miss Piggy and that, they're doing cover for these child sex traffickers, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yeah, they should. Right. And definitely people have, I think there's certain institutions that just don't feel like they know how to handle him anymore and don't know what to do and are lost and are whitewashing him in various ways. But I don't know. I mean, I think that like you can see the leaks in other places, I guess is all I'm saying.
I mean, this is gonna date me, but there was a moment in I want to say 91, maybe 92, when George H.W. Bush was caught on a hot mic talking about how he kicked a little ass, and he was talking about an interview he had done on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl, and that was like a 2-week story.
Right.
Like, no fooling. Like, that was all anybody talked about.
Yeah.
Hey, there we are. Time for a message from our first sponsor, Tim, our friends at Z-Biotics.
Between ball games, cold beers by the bonfire, and whiskey with the family after Thanksgiving dinner, this time of year is packed with festivities. I will say, we might be adding a mailbag segment for YouTube Plus members only coming up here. And so I'll save most of this for that rather than doing it in the middle of an ad read. But I don't recommend whiskey at Thanksgiving dinner. I've had a couple of bad experiences there, a couple of times where things have gone south. And, Thanksgiving might be a place for one glass of wine, and maybe
a soul gummy.
Some bubbly waters and a soul gummy and a gummy. But if you don't take that advice, whether it be at Thanksgiving dinner or elsewhere, and you're deciding to have a few drinks this holiday season, here's a way to stay productive the next day. You got it. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I've been on the road again this week. Nashville. I did have a couple drinks with Lauren Egan, actually, but I didn't see that coming, so I didn't have my Z-Biotics. But tomorrow night, I'm going to go see Geese in New York, honk. And so I will be doing my Z-Biotics, and I can be endorsing the product authentically, unlike Bill Crystal. There's been a demand out there for Bill Crystal to start doing this ad read. And, it's just important when doing ad reads that you have an authentic spokesperson. Go to zbiotics.com/nextlevel to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Next Level at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Make the most of every toast, tailgate, and touchdown this holiday season. Just don't forget to bring pre-alcohol along for the ride. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/nextlevel and use the code nextlevel at checkout for 15% off.
You have a spare ticket for the Geese show? Can I come?
I don't actually, but we could StubHub it. It's a GA situation.
Oh, maybe we could go to a show together.
Yeah, you would. I mean, they're hot right now. It'd be the coolest thing you've done since like the 90s.
98.
Yeah,
since 98.
Since playing shirtless basketball around the country.
We
tell people around.
A lot of that.
JVL is a shirtless pickup basketball man, hanging out with celebrities in LA. Getting
a long time ago.
I was about to say getting Mrs. Doubtfire. That's the wrong one. Getting Mrs. Robinson. Getting Mrs. Robinson.
Oh. Oof, don't tease people with that. Okay, so the Mohammed bin Salman thing yesterday.
Don't like him.
Don't like him. So I just want to preface this with a very neoconish point, which is that every American president is morally compromised, and every American president winds up dealing with the Saudis because they're useful to us, and they are an authoritarian regime. They have always been an authoritarian regime, and they are also the keystone to a strategically important part of the world.
Can I ask you something about this really quick before we go into that? Can we just pause on that for a sec? Because I'm with you. I was with you. Like 1993. Is it true anymore though? Like, is it true?
Yes.
I mean, like, we don't need their oil anymore.
No, but
we have enough oil ourselves.
They are the key to the stability in the entire region.
And they've really been crushing it at that. I mean, they incubated the 9/11 terrorists. The region has been in flames for most of the last 30 years.
They're very crafty. They've been internally stable.
I'm just saying, I'm a person. I have a neocon tendencies, and I believe that in engagement around the world, I'm also a technocrat, and I'm looking at the results of the experiment. Has it been going that well? Maybe the next president shouldn't have such a good relationship with Saudi. I'm just throwing that out there.
They, they're the key to normalizing relations with Israel, which is the key to.
That's really working great.
That is not working well right now, but I'm saying again, like pre 10/7 attacks, right? The idea was that if you can get the Saudis on board to do that, then that sort of begins unlocking other things towards long-term stability, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm just telling you, as a former neocon, Sarah, both of you are to shake your heads. This is where I'm going to get to be off key. I think I have a new foreign policy for the Middle East, which is Homer in the bushes. Homer in the bushes. Enough. This is my new policy for the Middle East.
Point is, this is not a case of JVL saying, how dare Donald Trump deal with this morally repugnant figure? I don't fault him for that. Again, every American president has to deal with the Saudis. It's a fact of life. What Trump did was weird, though, because he was like siding with the Saudi prince against American journalists.
Once again,
putting a dead one.
Yeah. Here's the thing. So when Joe Biden met with MBS, to your point about every president sort of has to deal with him, I was mad when he fist bumped him, because I think there's a difference between us having to deal with very bad world leaders as a matter of real politic. I think there's another thing for it to look like they have our moral imprimatur, right? Our blessing for their behavior. And so I thought that I didn't understand why Biden fist bumped him. And frankly, you know who else didn't? You know who else criticized Biden when that happened? Every Republican and conservative. Yes.
I'm shocked.
It looked it had that overly friendly feel. But you're right that what Trump is doing is so far different than that. I mean, they're not in the same universes, but like, it's a reminder that when Joe Biden did the fist bump, it was a national news story. He was being criticized by the right. And now what we've got is Donald Trump, just like in Helsinki. And it's funny, I was writing about this for something else, but Helsinki, where he stood on stage with Vladimir Putin and sided against America's intelligence community, who had said, nope, Russia interfered in the 2016 election. And then he went to Helsinki and met with Putin, and Putin was like, no, we didn't. And Trump was like, well, he says he didn't, because Trump is so great with dictators. He's like, I don't see why you would. And then the blowback, I was going and reading contemporaneous articles from the time, and you've got Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, and all of them are horrified by what he did.
Was Susan Collins concerned?
So I think everybody was losing their minds back in D.C., and they made him, he walked it back by lying about what he said. He said, I didn't say, why would it be them? He said, why wouldn't it be them? Like, he had some insane way of trying to cover his tracks. But he's given up all pretense now of how much he likes dictators. And he not only likes them and he talks about his long-term relationship with MBS, how much he likes them, how they're on the same page about everything. And then when American journalists try to question him about his crimes against humanity, which are many, Trump starts yelling at our journalists, American journalists. It is one of the things that we have to do in a post-Trump era is return to a place where we think dictators are bad. I would just like us to be in a place where we recognize dictators are bad. And you know what, though, Jay, just one last thing on the notion of stability. There are two kinds of things that are stable. Democracies are stable. Dictatorships are stable. And so we may deal with dictators because they offer a non-democracy-like stability because you've got the same guy there for decades and decades. So, okay, you've got to deal with them. That is different from providing active cover for them, which is what we do.
I mean, to me, the clearest thing was that, so MBS responds to the questions from the American reporters very respectfully, disingenuously.
Yes, lying.
Right? Disingenuously. But the point is, he has been briefed by the foreign secretary about how to, like, he has been given, these are how the answers, you will get these 3 questions. This is how you answer them. And he paid the Americans the respect of pretending that this is a normal exchange and that he as a head of state has to treat them with like seriousness and provide them something that is a simulacrum of an answer, right? The American president just says, you're a terrible person, you're a terrible reporter, and I think your entire network should lose their license. It's insane. Sitting watching the Saudi dictator act like a normal political head of state and the American president just gushing contempt for the American journalists.
And bald-faced lying about the dictator's murder.
Right.
We now know from the first term, from reporting from Woodward and others, that Trump knew MBS did it, ran cover for him because he was a guy that they could deal with, and that, Jared Kushner was going to, get huge investment from on the outside, right? And so, and then for him in the Oval Office this time to take that question and say, we don't know, they didn't do it, he's whatever happened, a lot of people didn't like this guy.
Things happen.
Yeah, things happen. And it was just a lie. It's just a straight up lie, a disgusting lie about a journalist who got murdered by this person. So even if you're, which I'm saying, I think I'm on the other side of this, but on the side of we have to deal with these guys. So whatever, okay, there are ways to do that. There are decades of examples of presidents saying we have disagreements on this, and this is,
yes,
there are areas where there are abuses, and we've been discussing that, right? Okay, that's not what's happening. Trump is not just buttering up the dictator, he's running cover for his murderous behavior. Yeah,
that's the thing. Trump is on MBS's side against Americans.
Yeah. And so anyway, I don't know. It's not a foreign policy podcast. We have a limited time, but all I'm saying is for Democratic presidential contenders who are going to be doing interviews with me in the future, my view is kind of I just want someone to explain to me I'm a baby. I want to start from square one. Why do we need them again anymore? What are we what exactly are we getting out of MBS right now? What are the American people getting?
We know what Jared Kushner's getting.
I know what Jared Kushner's getting. I understand that there's a stability in the Middle East element to it, but is the idea that if we're mean to MBS, they'll 9/11 us again? Is that what we're worried about? Okay, that's the pitch. Okay. You could attempt.
I could attempt to do this, but this isn't a foreign policy podcast.
You're not going to do it? Should we do it for fun in a bonus segment?
We could do it in a bonus segment if you really care.
But you do think we get? I really care because this is now a many-year held view for me. I don't think we're getting anything.
Overall, stability in the Middle East is important because it dramatically impacts the cost of oil, and the cost of oil is tied to America's economic stability. So if you have broader instability in the Middle East for whatever reason, that's bad for America. If you do not have good relations with the Saudis...
Can we just cut off OPEC?
Could we cut off OPEC?
Yeah.
I mean, at the cost
from
of
our
what?
System? Like, why do we need to be part of we produce our own oil and gas now. We produce enough to sustain the country ourselves.
No, we don't.
I think we do. Yeah, we do. Actually,
I
export.
We export natural gas. Whatever. We do not produce enough oil to. We are.
Maybe we invade Venezuela, take the oil, and then we can stop having to deal with.
Okay,
MBS.
Sarah's eyes are glazing over. Time for an ad from our sponsor, PDS Debt. If you're struggling with credit card debt, you've got a lot of company. Every call, every fee, every high interest trap is another reminder of how fast things can stack up against us. But there's another side to the story. PDS Debt has already helped hundreds of thousands fight back, cutting debt, ending the calls, and putting money back in your pocket. Whether you are struggling with credit cards, personal loans, or medical bills, PDS Debt has custom options to help you get out of debt. They go beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalized plan designed just for you. There's no minimum credit score required. They're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs, in your pocket. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, boasts thousands of 5-star reviews on Google, and holds a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. Why? Because PDS has helped hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. You might be in the phase of your life where you're trying to finally pay down student loans or figure out how to afford childcare. Whatever your situation is, I recommend a product like this to make sure that debt isn't something weighing you down. It's your money. It's your future. Don't let the system decide for you. You're 30 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/thenextlevel. That's pdsdebt.com/thenextlevel. pdsdebt.com/thenextlevel. All right, so I wrote a little thing today. I'm sure you guys have read it.
I did.
Basically,
I've received several texts about it as well.
Really? From who? Anybody?
We'll get into it.
Okay. Well, I am quasi optimistic. I'm Ron Burgundy, and I feel like we may be getting out of the most dangerous part of Trump 2.0, and we might make it through to the other side of this, not unscathed, having lost a great deal. Lots of danger still looming, but I don't know.
I have
anybody else?
I want to hear.
I've been listening to your show, Tim, and you've been sounding super optimistic.
I am feeling more optimistic, and I want to get to that. But before, I need you to defend yourself a little bit more. I received this text from a person who has the same name as a famous actor, but it is not the famous actor. It says this: Tim, I need you and Sarah to hold JVL accountable on the next level for going from the worst is yet to come to I think we may be past Trump's high water mark in the matter of 2 months. I've also taken a similar turn, so I'm sympathetic to you, but I figured that we should at least needle you about that a little bit and see what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not positive that we're going to get there. I just am seeing a pathway for the first time. I think it is possible that there is still worse to come. Like that's not out of
I would say to the texter, worse is definitely to come. Like even if we're past Trump's high water mark, then
right.
also too, it will get worse before we fully rid ourselves of him for sure.
Right. But the specific project of Donald Trump remaining as president of these United States, I think we've probably turned a corner on that. And then there's all sorts of other stuff downstream from that. But
wait, you don't think Trump 2028 anymore?
I think it becomes much harder for him.
Because?
Yeah. I mean, I just wrote 2,000 words on it.
Okay, well, I had to prep for this and I have other things. Tim was in the office. I haven't read it yet. I'm sure that I will because I am dying to hear optimistic JVL all of a sudden. But I suspect when I go read the triad, as I always do eventually, you're pointing out most of the time.
As you sometimes do eventually.
I assume that some of the reasons that you think this are that congressional Republicans didn't get in on nuking the filibuster. He lost the Epstein battle. starting to see some signs of life from Congress. We also, I think the reason he was jamming so hard in the early days was because he had public opinion wins at his back. He was able to claim the great margins and the great mandate. And as much as that stuff was completely exaggerated, it was true. He had won the popular vote and therefore did have some of the American people's fairy dust all over him. That is going away fast as his numbers fall. I have sort of always argued you need to get Trump to 32% as a way for people to start saying, oh, this guy is as low as George W. Bush when he left office, because at that point, nobody thinks, well, this guy's going to run again for president. Like like nobody wants him here anymore. So I can see that. I would say, a couple things. One, going back to this idea of him being cornered, I think probably Trump gets actually at his most dangerous, both when he has public opinion at his back and when it's totally collapsed and he feels cornered and he is basically pulling on his levers of power to try and do something to either make sure he doesn't end up in jail when he leaves
January
here.
6th.
Right.
That's what January 6th was. Right.
Yeah. And so I suspect those things could still very much be in our future. And I was doing Indie Fest out in Vegas with Ralston, and people were saying, Sarah, are you sort of copacetic on the idea of we're going to have free and fair elections in 2026? Are you worried about them? And I've heard people argue that we don't need to be as worried as we might have been because we just had these gubernatorial elections, New York elections. There was no interference, no thumb on the scale from Trump. And I said, yeah, but those people weren't going to have any oversight over him. He didn't care about those people the way that he cares about Democrats winning 2026. And by the way, on the list of good news things, we did just have a judge rule in Texas that they can't actually do the gerrymander that they were trying to do. That's not going to
stand.
It's probably not going to stand, but it gives people a little more hope. And if it were to stand, the whole thing would be for naught. Like Democrats would come out ahead in the whole mid-cycle redistricting gambit. Anyway, I think that Trump can be very dangerous when cornered. And I don't think that there's any reason for us to think that there's not still very dangerous chapters ahead of us.
Yeah, I think there's very much a choose your own adventure situation in the future. A bunch of things could happen. Like, who the hell knows, right? Like, if the other Republicans end up looking so weak, maybe Republicans boomerang back around to him because they're like, oh my God, 82-year-old Trump is look at what else we have at this shit show primary, and like the Democrats put up some lunatic, you know what I mean? Somebody that looks very weak themselves. Who the hell knows, right? Like a lot can happen. Trump has not had, with the exception of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which was tragic and horrible, but has led to a lot of kind of weird, I think, unexpected fissures on the right. Like he hasn't had the event that has allowed him to crack down and take power, right? None of these protests at this point have turned into anything resembling Kenosha BLM type, right? Like, so thank God. And so anyway, so there are other potential things that could happen that could change the trajectory back. Like to me, like what I just think when I look at all this is Trump's position. I guess the one area where I would look back at my analysis from earlier in the year and think that maybe I was giving him a little bit too much credit was that his position was always a little bit more fragile than I think it seemed. I think that the notion that everybody was folding to him, I kind of gave this, and especially unexpected people, for folks like us, like it gave the sense of like, wait a minute, like the law firms are folding, the universities are folding, Disney is folding, right? Everybody is completely getting accustomed to this. The tech companies, all right, and so, maybe he'll be able to hold on to power, not even entirely based on his own political skill and strength, but by the fact that everybody gave up, right, and like refused to fight him, right. And so I think that was a legitimate analytical view of the landscape, but I think maybe it covered up some of the underneath vulnerability that we see now, which is like if any of those attempts to hold on to power failed, and the dominoes could start falling very quickly, right? Because of the nature of his lame duckedness, and there could be infighting on their side, and then all of a sudden he starts to look old and weak, right? Like I knew that was all possible, but it actually seems like maybe it was more of a higher percentage likelihood than I would have thought a few months ago, and I do think that's where things like the trajectory we're on now.
His polling held up for months. I mean, we had months worth of this show where we would come on and we would recite all the things that were happening with Doge and the USAID and the law firms, and then the inflation going up and the tariffs and the stock market tank. And he was just like hanging out at like 48.51.
Yeah, you know what happened?
Tell me.
People started to feel the economic consequences. Like, people gave him a grace period. They gave him a period of time where, like, Rome wasn't built in a day. We've got, but I appreciated Tim saying I was right about the Epstein stuff, but I really don't think that's the thing I've been most right about. I think the thing that I was most right about was going into 2024, how frustrated people were with the economy, how mad they were at Joe Biden about the economy, how much affordability was a central issue that I think at the time, for some reason, people were like, because people are trying to make a case for Biden, they're like, no, the economy's good. Look at it on paper. And of course, we were in the middle of a recovery. But it was still, people still didn't feel good about the economy. And they were like, let's switch. Let's see what the other guy can do. He's a businessman. I don't love him, but I think he's better than the old guy who's doing nothing. And now that same economy is killing Trump. And he's made it worse. He's made it actively worse. And people expected him to do something different on the economy.
I'm staring at the Nate Silver, amalgamation of approval, disapproval on him. And the divergence starts on October 19th. So I'm not convinced. I actually think this is probably shutdown and Epstein related more than, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that's where suddenly things go from the very stable net -8 that he was in and had been in since June, July, really July. And then, to now we're at like -15.
This is why, not to just keep doing the, this is where I was right, this is where I was right. But this is like why I think that the shutdown gambit did actually work. Here's the thing. Part of it, yes, is people's feeling material effects of what is happening, right? Like at some point at the highest levels of inflation during Biden, like people really were like, I went to the grocery store one week and it was one number, and I went to the grocery store the next week and it was another number, and I was like, wow, this fucking sucks. Like I can feel this in a real way. Obviously, that has not happened during this period because it's been more of like a steady, like slow, depending on where you are on the economic scale, either like a slow decline or a very, minimal incline, unless you're in the private prison business, then you've really seen a skyrocket. But what happened with the shutdown, and I think that around there was also, so we can all give ourselves a cookie, the bulldozing of the East Wing, which would be on the JVL side of the ledger, and the Epstein stuff. And you see the Democrats finally out there saying, okay, we are focusing on healthcare and affordability. Like that, these are the things we're going to talk about. We're focusing your attention on this. Like, you're annoyed about it. You've been annoyed about it for a year, but whatever. You're blaming Biden still, or maybe you're blaming Trump. You don't care that much, whatever. You're still sticking with whoever you were for in the last election. And now the Democrats are saying, hey, we're going to focus on this right now for this period of time. And this is what we're going to talk about. And Trump is going to say, you know what I'm going to focus on? Redesigning the White House so it looks like a cheesecake factory, and doing fancy trips and bulldozing things and covering up the Epstein files. And I think some percentage of people started to look at all this and be like, what? I thought that this guy was focused on my affordability problems, and I was giving him this period of time, and now we're 10 months in, and not only is my affordability issue not better, not only are my bills not any better, but like he is gallivanting around the world with dictators and bulldozing the White House and making everything gold. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not what I voted for. That's not what I elected him for. So anyway, I think that would explain why October to me.
I think that's a good explanation. And I do think I agree that the ballroom as a contrast mechanism for people I don't know. I tweeted this at some point just because the ballroom was less about, I think for us, we're like the bulldozing of the East Wing. This is like this metaphorical thing Trump's doing in the country. It feels gross to us. But I think for a lot of average people, they were like, what is he doing? It's like I'm building a gilded palace while you guys is grocery prices. And that contrast matters to people. I also had the great opportunity to hear Yulia Navalny speak the other day, and she was tremendous. But I had not maybe known how much of Alexei Navalny had really corruption was the way he got everybody's attention. Yes. And I think that is something, and this is where Democrats, I just need you guys to focus a little bit and weave together a few things, because if everything is like, yes, things are too expensive. And while they're too expensive for you, what is Trump doing? He's building a gilded ballroom. He's protecting his rich friends who were abusing young girls, children, pedophiles. Trump was going to the mat for them. He's gone to the mat for his rich friends to give them tax cuts while your healthcare is going up. Like, put it together. It's a story. It's a story about affordability, but it's also a story about corruption. You got to tell it in one breath.
I don't know what it says about us as a country that that is what broke through, and not like Kilmar Abrego Garcia being pulled out of a car with his special needs kid in the passenger seat and sent to a foreign gulag. That's great. Whatever it takes to get the people to pay attention, right?
Whatever it takes.
If they pay attention to the stupidest thing, that's a win or something.
Sorry, are we done? I don't want to finish this conversation about Trump and like the worst is yet to come.
We're going to keep going, but you're going to hold that thought.
Okay.
And you're going to give us an ad for OneSkin.
This show is sponsored by OneSkin, which is always sitting on my desk because I use it every day while I am sitting here. You might be one of those people who feel like 2025 has been one of those years. They've aged 10 years in 10 months. That is how I feel. That is how I feel like I look. We get it, but your skin doesn't have to show it, no matter what this past year has been like for you. Thanks to OneSkin. Known for cult skincare favorites like OS1 Body and OS1 Face and OS1 Eye, which is this guy, OneSkin stands out for their science-first approach to skin aging, delivering hydration, barrier support, and powerful longevity benefits in every product. All of OneSkin's products are designed to layer seamlessly and replace multiple steps in your routine, making skin health easier and smarter at every age. OneSkin also just launched their limited edition holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set, which adds the perfect touch of luxury to your gift list. It's the ultimate upgrade to any nightly ritual, featuring their best-selling face moisturizer, their brand new peptide lip mask, and a sculpting gua sha tool. I don't know what that is, but sounds cool. Each element is designed to work together as your body enters its natural nightly repair mode, helping renew skin at the cellular level for a stronger, smoother, and more youthful-looking complexion. For a limited time only, try OneSkin for 15% off using code THENEXTLEVEL at oneskin.co/thenextlevel, all one word. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Thanks, OneSkin. One thing that I think it's worth keeping an eye on is that Trump is an old, addled man, right, who does seem weirdly obsessed with the building of the ballroom and the guilt, like putting up all the gold and everything. And you might say, oh, well, this is good. Trump's going to be over here in the corner, like playing with his gold and hanging out with the other dictators, but he's not going to be really running things. But then you think, who is? Who has incentives to keep Trump as long as they can in charge? Who has incentives to, if Trump's not paying attention, to do a bunch of things to help themselves? It is Stephen Miller. It is Pam Bondi. It is Kash Patel. Like, Trump is surrounded his kids, right, who are trying to, before he's done, protect themselves from the prosecutions because they're doing so many illegal things, who are going to want to try and keep Trump in power because there's not a plan B politically for Republicans here in a post-Trump world. And so I just want to point out that Trump is not the only one who, as time goes on, will be cornered and who could start behaving in certain ways. And the last thing I'll just throw out there And I don't like this role reversal where I have to be the pessimistic one and you're the optimistic one.
Believe me, I don't like it either.
But I will tell you one of the points, JVL, that you have made over and over that now sits with me as just an absolute fact that I wait to see the implications of are how much money we have spent on this standing army of ICE agents. And so as long as that sits out there, like he didn't build it for nothing. And that is Stephen Miller's army now. Like I remain concerned about that.
Sarah literally took all the points I was just going to make. Like, okay. I'm not Pollyanna. I think that you could.
I don't think I am either.
No. I know. I was speaking about myself, and you said that my tone in the pod hasn't changed. I just want the listeners to understand like where I'm actually at, which is like, I think that we could look back at this moment in 2029 and say like, what was the turning point? Where was it? And have been the last 2 weeks, right? Like just like you would say that for obviously for Biden around Afghanistan with lower stakes or whatever, like where you look at it and people look at the end of it and say, that's where things turned for him and he lost control of the wheel. I think that's possible here. And I think that is possible also side by side with him doing all kinds of terrible things with ICE and crackdowns and other things to try to stay in power. And I think it's also possible it's also possible that's, that events happen and the snow globe shakes up, right? I guess it's not a guarantee, but I think that that's kind of where things stand.
Full agree. All right, Tim, you interviewed Kamala Harris last night and then had a dream about it. I want to hear all about it. Like how was it? You at the Ryman? I had a dream
before.
At the Ryman.
The Ryman.
Ryman.
Yeah, look at you.
Ryman.
You love country music.
Yeah.
You're not a country music man. It's okay.
Like country.
The Ryman is the classic country music venue, though. Very cool for me. All the modern favorites have been there.
Geese
the Sturgills and the excuse me?
Are geese country?
Are geese. Is geese yeah. It's a plural name, but a single band. No.
Okay, good.
I would say they have a song. They have one song that kind of is like a psychedelic country-ish kind of song, but no, I'm
gonna love this show.
They're kind of they're like a little bit like a Strokes-ish, but maybe some Leonard Cohen. Anyway, a little bit of television. They're good. But the Ryman is classic. I mean, it's beautiful in there. Johnny Cash, everybody, and I found myself kind of looking up sometimes at the beautiful stained glass windows and such while Kamala was talking. Then I'd be like, lock in. But it was cool. And it was good. It was cool talk. It was good to talk to her. And look, my view about, I think Kamala in some ways is, and this is where the dream is going to come in. Is tragic figure the right word? I mean, it's unfortunate. Like the situation is unfortunate that she got put in. Like, and I think that the things that people, the disappointments that people have about her or her campaign, like are pretty much not her fault. Like she should not have been in the position that she was in. She got put into it by Joe Biden. I put most of the blame on him. I asked her about that like 3 times on stage to try to get her to concede that. And she, in Kamala-ish way, kind of basically sort of agreed that Joe Biden didn't set her up very well, but did it in a roundabout way that isn't great for clipping. Of her being like, "Yes, damn you, Joe Biden." It wasn't really that. It was a circuitous way of being like, "Yeah, perhaps it'll cost us," which is a pretty big perhaps. And so, and I think that there are things like that she doesn't excel at, right? Like in the room, you can tell. All the things that she was good at on the campaign, she's good at. Like she can light up the crowd at certain parts, right? Like she can do a barn burner element, and she can, and she can do I'm going to take you to church for a little bit, and she does laugh at my jokes, which I really like, and you know what I mean. Like there are things that she's good at, but I couldn't. Like in this day and age, where people want, Sarah and I were talking about this before, where people just want this authenticity, this parasocial relationship. Like some people just don't have that, or aren't capable, or don't want to, and maybe there's sexism and misogyny or racism in there, or maybe it's just their personality or like whatever. Some people just don't have that, and like it was hard to get her to be emotional with me, because that's just not her. And like at times she goes into Kamala speak, and you can see like what the things that frustrated her. So I don't know. The whole thing, in some ways, it was very cool. My dream which you referenced, which I just thought was funny enough I had to mention before the interview, 2 nights before, I had like I woke up, the dream was vivid. I woke up immediately and started writing it down because it was
Just
so
like
vivid.
a Candace Owen dream. You were visited in your
I don't
sleep
think I
by
was
somebody?
visited, no,
Okay.
because what you're about to find out, Kamala Harris had morphed into like a toddler. Like she was like 4 years old. She was in the back seat of my car in a car seat, and she was crying. And I went back and I was like comforting her, and she was and like baby Kamala was telling me that the people were being mean to her. And I was like, it's okay. It's okay. And so I think that this dream says more about me than about her in a lot of ways. It's that I was, of course.
It's your subconscious.
It's my subconscious, of course. But like it's about the fact that like she, was like that she was not the active agent in all of this, right? Like she gets picked to be VP. He quits way too late. She's kind of the accidental nominee. Like she's doing the best she can. The stakes are huge, and she does, and it's like not really probably the thing that she was meant for. Like I think she was really good at other things, like prosecuting in the Senate, and that everybody's really nasty about it. And I have sympathy for her about that. So I guess that's the part where it's about me, where I have sympathy. On the other hand, you don't really like that's not really a good sign for a politician if you have sympathy for them. I felt that way about Jeb in a lot of ways. But I think people felt that way about Jeb. Like they felt bad. People tell me this. Like they felt bad for him on stage with Trump because like they wanted him to punch Trump in the face, and they felt like he was like they knew he was better and he had it in him, but it just like in that setting, Trump dominated him, and so they said they felt bad for him, and that's nice. It says about Jeb and Kamala that they're nice people, but that's also not really what you're looking for when you want a fighter to win, and so that's the tragic part about it for me. So they're all that's my feelings dump about my interview with Kamala.
That's I think that's good. And I think you're putting your thumb on something. And I would just say, I don't know if you got to spend time with her backstage or whatever, right? My guess is, and you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong. My guess is that if Kamala Harris was talking to her pal, somebody she's been around for many, many years, the way she talks about Joe Biden and what happened to her is very different than the way she talked to you, Tim. And I think that I
don't think I would ever know the answer to that, to be honest, because I think that's a pretty small circle.
So that might be true, but like, it doesn't feel like the honest answer, I guess, is like, you can sort of tell when somebody is telling you their real truth. And this has always been for me why I never know how to quite explain it to people about Trump and the way that voters say, hey, I know he lies, but he's telling the truth. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any linear sense. What they mean is like, he seems like that's the thing he really thinks. Like he's convinced of it. It sounds like the thing he says to everybody. Like doesn't have 2 different personalities. He's not flipping a switch and now he's a different person. Same guy all the time.
That's performance skill because he does flip a switch. Yeah. So he's good at that.
He's good at that.
That's a politician's skill.
That is, I don't know. I mean, I think that he's an anti-politician in many ways. And I think he is a performer in a way that hits people. Whereas when people in the focus groups constantly say, I don't want a regular politician, or she seems like a regular politician, it's that measure of being careful that, this probably isn't what she says to her friends about this thing. That'd be
I think that's totally right. Totally right. Hey, did you guys see
she just would have been so much better if she had just won.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Axios story? Yeah, this is a great thing to close on. Earlier this week, Ted Cruz eyeing 2028 race. Speaking of regular politicians, please God, please, I'm on my knees asking you, Lord.
Are you ready for a contrarian view on this?
Please let Ted Cruz run for president.
Oh,
please, please,
because you want to laugh at him.
Yes, I want to watch it happen to him again.
He will get crushed.
Is there no part of you that is not like, good for Ted for running against the Tucker, Nick Fuentes, JD Vance axis of evil. Like, he's going to get killed in it, but like, good for him for giving that a college try. There's no part of you that thinks that?
Sure, there's a little part
Tiny
of me.
part.
The bigger
None
part
for
of
you?
me just wants to look. I have no agency in this. It's not up to me to nominate him.
Yeah.
But I would like to sit and watch that guy just get pantsed for months on end. Please, God, yes. I hope DeSantis runs too.
I don't know about DeSantis. Here's my thing about Ted. We all liked, and I laughed at him when he was going in the Tucker interview with him about the Iran war and all this. And like, there are various elements that I agreed with Tucker on or agreed with Ted on the smaller policies about Israel and Iran. But like, at the broader picture, like, Tucker is advancing an evil ideology that is extremely pernicious. And the fact that Ted went onto the podcast and was just like, fine, I'll fight with you about this. I thought, good. We needed more of that. I wish we've had more of that the last 10 years. No?
But
Sarah
Ted is a phony.
It's killing Sarah that I'm saying this.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I have PTSD at the idea of Ted Cruz being the one person in the race that we have to like nominally root for because he is less awful in like the most deeply awful ways that Tucker and JD Vance are.
Sure.
Right? Okay, like that. Like I did this once. It was very bad. Also, while I agree with JVL about he would get destroyed. He is so unlikable. People will hate him in the way that they hate Mike Pence and think he is a traitor. And Ted Cruz will find him. I'd love though that Ted Cruz like started a podcast, whatever. But yes, Ted Cruz went and fought with Tucker. Sure. I get it. Okay. He could have a couple points for that. He has gone along with everything Trump's done.
All of it. He defended on January 6th.
He's
was
been
like,
one of the worst.
I'll defend you at the trials, Mr. Trump. He's the worst of the worst. And this is not principled for him. It's purely tactical. And if it were up to me, if I had the power of choosing the Republican nominee for president and my choice was like JD Vance or Ted Cruz, I would choose Ted Cruz. Great, whatever. But it's not up to me. And it is not incumbent upon me to root or not root for anybody because that's not going to affect any outcome. And if one of the tiny bits of pleasure I can get from this life is seeing bad things happen to bad people, well, by God, I'm going to enjoy it.
I do not begrudge you that at all. I 100% agree with everything you said. I'm just saying I think it would be good for somebody who has the confidence of their convictions to go into a 2028 primary against JD Vance and to just do so unapologetically. And that was like, this was the thing. This was when we had the fight when I had my fight with Andrew Sullivan, who doesn't talk to me anymore, which is unfortunate, over Ron DeSanctimonious, where he was like, you should be rooting for DeSanctimonious. And I always said what you said, JV, which is like, doesn't matter who I root for. It wouldn't help Ron DeSanctimonious for me to root for him. It would probably hurt him on balance, if anything, but it would be meaningless. But my point, but in addition to that, he's not actually fighting Trump on any of the bad things that Trump did. Like, he tried to get to Trump's right. Like, his critique of Trump was like, you were too pro-vaccine, you know?
Yep.
Like, so what is there to root for? At least with Ted Cruz, all I'm saying is, if it's him or if it's not him, I would hope that in 2027, somebody would come in and just be like, the populist nationalists, the illiberal right is bad. It's bad. I think it's bad. And I'm going to I'll have these other terrible positions about gay people and trans people and whatever else, you name it. But on the matters of populist nationalism, I'm against it.
Maybe Nikki
and
Haley
I'm going to
can
argue for it.
Throw her hat in the ring and try that too.
Not Nikki. I'd like someone else to try, but that's where I'm at.
Guys, before we get out of here, in the show notes this episode, right down there, you'll see a link to our listener survey. We want to hear from you about what you're liking and what you're not liking. We're making some changes, doing some things next year, and we would like to hear from you to help guide us in our thinking. I mean,
and rank us. I want a ranking.
Be very careful about that, people. Be very, very careful with that, because I know what your rankings are, Don't make me turn this bus around.
I like to wreck.
Sarah, Tim, it was good to see you guys. I hope you have a lot of fun in Meat Space without me. Tim, I will see you at the show this weekend in the city. Good luck, America.
Bye.
Honk, honk.